Welcome to Mystical Messages. I am Hilary Harley, your podcast host. I am a soul guide and astrologer. Mystical Messages is your podcast gateway to discover and learn about the realm beyond the veil, including all things intuitive, metaphysical, and the healing arts. To learn more about my work or book a session with me, please visit hilaryharley.com. If you would like to read my monthly forecast, you may find the full written transcript for all astrology episodes on my website. That way, if you hear something and want to re-listen to a forecast or check a date of a cosmic event, you may find it on the written monthly forecast on hilaryharley.com. Today, I am so thrilled and honored to have my very special guest, Irene Weinberg, join me. And Irene is, I want to be Irene when I grow up. She is the host of the award-winning Grief and Rebirth podcast. Irene's show, Grief and Rebirth podcast, is in the top 2% of 3 million podcasts globally. And before I get too far into our conversation, I just want to say you can subscribe to Irene's show and learn more about her at ireneweinberg.com. Welcome, Irene.
Oh, thank you so much, Hilary. We're going to have so much fun with this interview. I'm so looking forward to it. And I want to tell everyone that I had an incredible astrology reading with you. I saw you on another podcast. I said, I have to meet this lady. And it was amazing. And a lot of things you told me already starting to come true. Mm-hmm. Bless you. Thank you. So I just want to tell everyone that I really think you're very special.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure. And it's really an honor for me to have you share your skill and talent and wisdom, because you are, as I said, you're the Dr. Ruth Westheimer of Grief and Rebirth. I mean, I just adore you. And so I just want you to let it rip.
Let me let it rip. I'll just tell everyone my amazing story, because
please.
I have to tell you all that I did not believe in spirituality. There was a time in my life I thought it was all hooey. I had a sister-in-law who was spiritual. I was hardly talking to her because she had to be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And wow, was the surprise on me. And here I am fully immersed in this world. And what happened to me is just still amazes me. So I was married to my second husband. We both had emotionally disturbed first spouses. We had found each other literally, which tells you a lot. We had custody of both of his teenage children, which I tell people, if I could do that, I could do anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was
for real.
Easy. It was not easy. And we were bringing up my little guy, and we were married at the time, we were married about 18 years. And one day I was washing a glass in my kitchen sink. We were skiers, and it was, I think, the beginning of November or so, and we were getting ready for ski season. And I washed a glass in my kitchen sink, and suddenly a thought came into my head that wasn't my thought. And it said, Saul has to go. Many lessons will be learned from his death. Now, I was washing a glass, and I was getting ready to bring my husband a glass of water in the family room where he was watching a Jets game on TV. And I said to myself, this is nuts. What the hell am I thinking? I filled the glass with water. I brought it to him. I kissed the top of his head, and I thought I put it out of my mind, but you never do.
Right.
You never do. And 2 months later, we were going to our ski house Actually, we went to our ski house 2 months later, and on the way back, we got in the car to go home. And on the way there, Hilary, I had a thought, and it was also a strange thought, and it was my thought. It said, make this the best weekend Saul ever had. Just whatever he wants to do. If he wants to go to a restaurant, he had a tough time in business the week before. Maybe in my mind, it was like, he's had a really tough time. Be easy. Don't argue if he wants to see this or that person you're not crazy about or whatever, la, 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 whatever. So when we got in the car to go home that weekend, he said to me, wasn't this the best weekend a couple could have together? Oh my God. Right. And the other interesting thing was the night before, he had made a comment to me. He said, I'm so lucky and thankful to have you in my life. And so this was what was happening. We got into the car to go home, and we were on the New York State Thruway going 72 miles an hour for about an hour and a half. And I suddenly felt the car go into a huge swerve. And I looked over, and my husband was sound asleep at the wheel.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, gone, sound asleep. And I said, Saul, I called out to him, Saul, wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And the car was swerving, and he woke up and he saw what was happening, and he went to pull the car out of the swerve. And as he did, we rose up into the air for the first of 4 flips. And as we rose into the air, Hilary, I got another strong thought. It said, he's not going to make it. You are. Okay. So now we flipped the first time. It was like I was in a gigantic roller coaster. We flipped the first time and landed hard. When we took off the second time, and I had heard he's not going to make it, you are. When we flipped the second time, I literally left my body. Now, I didn't believe in any of this, Hilary.
Right.
And I am suddenly in the void. I'm like, what is this? And then all of a sudden, I feel myself return to my body, and the car flipped again, and then it flipped again. And at the end of the 4th flip, we ended up upside down, sliding into a ravine on the side of the Thruway. And I had been told he's not going to make it. You are, and all of this. Mm-hmm. And I'm upside down in my seatbelt. And I look over at my husband, not realizing at the time that I am very wounded. And I'll tell you what,
I
was conscious of everything, aware of everything. And I looked over at him and I said, Saulie, are you okay? And I saw that what I'd been told was right on. His mm-hmm. entire beautiful essence had left his body. I said, oh my God. Oh my God. I got it in that moment. We do go on. I felt that he must still be with me, that I had been told something that was happening. And now I see, as I'm processing this, I see a helicopter land, and 3 EMTs jumped out of the helicopter, and they started rocking the car to get it right side up. And by the way, we held up traffic on the Thruway for 2.5 hours. It was that bad an accident.
Right.
And as they got us right side up, one of them reached into the shattered window of my car, undid my seatbelt, pulled me through the car. And as he did, a male voice, and I've been told it was an archangel, mm-hmm. a male voice boomed into my head, and it said, be loving and kind to everyone, mm-hmm. as they laid me on the side of the road.
Wow. Well,
Hilary, does that change your cells as they're multiplying? I mean, like, oh my God, what is this, right? Be loving and kind to everyone. And my husband's dead next to me. And all of this is going on. And I felt like I had been given, which I was, a heavenly directive. Mm-hmm. So instead of screaming for myself and doing the typical, oh my God, my life is over, my husband is gone, and all this kind of thing, I started saying, bless you for coming to help me. Thank you so much. What is your name? As they loaded me into the helicopter, I'm so grateful that you're here. I mean, it changed my whole outlook of everything. Yeah. And they brought me to the hospital. And this was my first surgery. I needed 19 stitches in an artery in the bottom of my right foot. I needed 2 blood transfusions. Oh my goodness. I was in the hospital for 3 days. That was followed in a period of over 2 years. I lost the ACL in my right knee. My collarbone was reversed inside my shoulder. And I had a detached retina, because the car kept flipping on the right side. So mm-hmm. 4 flips, 4 surgeries, everything happened there. Mm-hmm. So, but when I got to the hospital and I had gotten this message, and now they're calling the kids and all that kind mm-hmm. of stuff, mm-hmm. The surgeon who was going to operate on me came over and he said, I need to tell you, you've got quite a patchwork quilt at the bottom of your foot, and I'm going to be giving you a lot of needles and all. And I also have to tell you I'm so sorry, but your husband is gone. And I said to him, Doc, I know, and I'm the luckiest woman in the world that I had this man in my life.
Wow.
I am so blessed. And and other things went on because I had this directive in my mind when my stepdaughter came, certain ways that I handled it and all of that kind of thing. That I got a call from the assistant to the surgeon 3 months after the operation. And she said, Irene, I have to tell you something. You changed lives in the emergency room that night. We have seen everything on that throughway. No one has ever seen anyone respond to what happened to you with so much love and kindness to everyone in that room and what you were doing. So that was 3 months later. But in the present moment, I go through 3 days. I'm in the hospital. And the other interesting thing that happened was my sister-in-law, who I thought was cuckoo, came to visit me, and she's spiritual. And she saw that my whole aura had changed.
Oh, wow.
She knew already that something very dramatic had happened to me.
Shifted, sure.
Everything shifted. And then I'll tell you this part in a minute, so it's so interesting. Now I come home and I'm in grieving hell. I'm back in 3D world. We're talking about the funeral, and we're talking about stepchildren and lost their father and all this stuff that's going on, and business problems and all this stuff. But I knew, and I'm in a wheelchair and I'm having all these things, but I knew something was up. And 6 weeks after the accident, I'm just getting out of the wheelchair. I get a call from my dry cleaner. And if you know me for 3 minutes, you know that I talk to everyone and I'm very friendly. So every time I used to bring in my husband and my dry cleaning, we would have a chat and all this. And my dry cleaner said, Irene, I want to tell you something. And now the only reason I'm telling you is because you seem very open-minded. And I'm really sorry about what's happened with your husband. He said, and I don't tell a lot of people, but 8 years ago, my oldest son died of a drug overdose, and my wife and I were inconsolable. And we went to all these grief specialists and social workers and all, and no one could help us until we found out that the soul goes on to the other side. And we've been seeing these mediums, and oh my goodness, he came through in so many ways. And if you're open to it, my wife and I are going to see a new medium. This was in 1998. The accident happened in December of 97. This was in 98, really before spirituality was
taking off. Right.
And he said, we're going to be seeing this new guy, and we've done a video for him. And if you come with us, it won't even cost you anything. I go to, and I'm telling you for a reason, Hilary, I go to their home, which is 5 counts away from me, and I get into their car. I'm in Saul's car because mine was completely totaled. There were still pieces of my car on the road, on the throughway 6 months later.
Wow.
So I'm in Saul's car. And I leave Saul's car at my dry cleaner's house, and we go another 5 counts away to go to this gallery where at the time, there were only 35 people gathered. Half of them, because it was before voice recorders, were taking notes for their friends or loved ones who were hoping to hear from someone from the other side. I had no idea what was going on, but I knew something was up because of the messages and all that had happened. And so I walk in, and this medium just starting out was John Edward. Of all people. And he looks at me, he goes, I don't even want to know your name. I want you to go upstairs. And I go upstairs, and I'm waiting, and I'm watching the interactions with people and all. And my dry cleaner's next to me, and I start hearing these amazing messages. It's like Saul waited for me to see what other people were receiving. I'm getting a message from someone who says he shot himself in the head with a pistol. Oh my God, that's my father. I mean, evidence that you could never know. And then he said, I'm getting a message from a guy. He's talking about Dr. Pepper. And I elbowed my dry cleaner. I go, Joel, oh my God, it's Saul. Start writing. 15 years before he met me, Saul's brother, who was a big advertising executive on Madison Avenue, was creating an ad for Dr. Pepper. And instead of saying, Dr. Pepper's coming east from California, let's talk to the man in the street, Joe Smith, about what he thinks about Dr. Pepper. Yeah, it was let's talk to the man in the street, Saul Weinberg, about what he thinks about Dr. Pepper.
Wow.
So Saul used to laugh because he said, it was like so funny. My name is not exactly a typical advertising. And Irvin said to Saul, make sure you listen to the radio at this particular time. And Saul said, I almost drove off the road when I heard that he inserted my name. So I knew there was no way Edward could know this.
Right.
And I knew it was Saul. And Saul came through for 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
With proof of, he's telling me he died in a different state than where you live. He died in New York. We lived in New Jersey. Who's Bruce? That was my stepson. Who's Matt? That was my son, whose name starts with an S. My stepdaughter's name started with an S. He's telling me, all this amazing. He's telling me you're wearing his skier charm under your blouse. How the heck could he know that? And all this information is coming through. And the kicker was, I'm going to show this to you. He's telling me you're driving his favorite car with Saul Z.
Oh my goodness. It's a license plate for everybody that says New Jersey, Garden State license plate. And the plate initials are Saul, S-A-U-L-Z.
Because the kids he sold condos to in Hoboken, New Jersey, loved my husband so much they called him Uncle Saulsy. So he had Saulsy put on his license plate. And how does John Edward know that car is parked 5 towns away, that I'm driving that car with this on the license plate?
Wow.
So now I am, oh my God, who can
believer.
I tell? I'm a believer. Who can I tell? Who can I tell?
1 second. I just want to, for everybody who's tuning in and listening, I just want to wish Irene Weinberg. She is my special guest today. I'm so thrilled and honored to have her here talking about her own journey, spiritual journey. And she runs a podcast, an award-winning podcast, Grief and Rebirth. And it is in the top 2% globally of 3 million podcasts. So continue. I just wanted everybody to, who's listening, to remind them how to connect with you.
To this day, when I tell this story, I'm still amazed. I have to tell you.
It's unbelievable.
It's an amazing story. And so, in some way, I feel very blessed in a way with all the tragedy that had happened to me, because it totally transformed my life in wonderful ways. But now I get these messages through John Edward. And who can I call? My sister-in-law. So I call her up and I go, I had no one to talk to. I just heard from Saul, and she goes, thank goodness, because 2 weeks after he died, after the accident, she said, he gave me a message. And I said, Saul, why are you talking to me? We weren't talking when you died. And the answer was, because I thought you were crazy, but you're not. And I'm on the other side. And I have to get through to Irene. And she inherited 4 business deals that she has to work through. 3 will work out, 1 won't, which is exactly what happened. And there was a message about each of the kids. She said, now I can share this with you, right? So now what do I do? I'm going through my life and I'm dealing with those business deals and all the drama and all the stuff that's going on. But I start reaching out to other mediums because now I'm hungry. I just heard from him and I want to hear more. And I
just have to say that is really common, actually, in my experience. And I have heard from mediums that it's always the non-believers who go to the other side, after they die, and they're the front of the line to talk to their relatives on Earth. And that's certainly happened with me, with my loved ones. It's like, oh, they couldn't be bothered. It was all hooey. And
and guess what?
And they're the first ones like knocking on the door of the medium to get through.
Right. And sometimes, unfortunately, the people they're knocking on the door are still, they don't want to know about it. And They have all these wonderful things to tell them, and people are not open to hearing it.
Yeah.
So, but because I was opened up, so I started getting these amazing messages from different people. He described his toast to me through someone. He described the first meal he ever made me. He described the first way we kissed, every way that he could. And every single one of them had a message in common. Irene, there's a divine plan. We've been soulmates for many lifetimes. I mean, I was at a point where past lifetimes, what? We've been soulmates for many lifetimes. He said, there's a divine plan that if certain things didn't work out in this lifetime, and he was having some business aggravation and all that kind of thing, and he had been through a lot of stuff. If certain things didn't work out in this lifetime, I was going to go first, and we're going to work together across the veil. I will help you, but there are things, and the first thing we want you to do is to write a book. I'm like, huh? Book? What book? I took honors English in high school. What book? I played the violin. I helped him in his real estate business. But if your husband describes his toast to you from the other side, and the first way you kissed and the first meal, you're going to write that book. So my sister-in-law guided me to someone who was able to channel soul. And I worked with her, and I started asking questions in the book. What happens over there with people who are evil? What do you mean we're soulmates? We had past lives. Tell me about that. And this beautiful book, he started talking about, now that he was on the other side and he had a broader viewpoint, he started talking about all this stuff. And I was still a little skeptical, Hilary, until this happened. This woman would ask him a question, and he'd come right through her, and she'd be typing what she was getting right on her computer. And she said, he's telling me you had a past life in ancient Israel, and you were a little boy. He was a rabbi. And by the way, I have past lives where I was Christian. I was a boy in this lifetime. I've had past lives where I was on my own. We do different things for our soul growth.
Different roles.
Right, for our soul growth. But in this particular lifetime, I was also Jewish, and it was in ancient Israel. And he was my rabbi, my teacher. And she said, I'm asking him what your name was in that lifetime. I'm getting a very strange name. Now, she was Methodist, Hilary. She'd never heard a word of Hebrew or anything. And she said, he keeps telling me you were such a good little boy in that lifetime. And he's saying your name is something weird like Yeled Tov. And I said, oh my goodness, Yeled Tov is Hebrew for a good little boy.
Oh my heavens.
So that's how I knew this was real. Another way. And then and then she gave me that name, and this beautiful book started to take shape. And I called it They Serve Bagels in Heaven, because there's a scene he tells me that when you cross over to the other side, they create a scene that helps you easily acclimate to now you're no longer in your body. And this is your home, and this is your new reality. And his mother greeted him on the other side with a bagel and coffee in heaven. And people say to me, did it come with lox and cream cheese? I go, anything you want.
I love that story so much. They Serve Bagels in Heaven is the name of your book. And it's also available on your website, Irene.com. IreneWeinberg.com.
And I'm going to spell Weinberg because people spell it differently. It's Weinberg. But Weinberg. But yes, so this is all going on. And I'm out with the book, Hilary. I'm doing my thing, and I'm doing book signings, and I'm doing this. And I think I'm done. I did my divine thing. He's over there. I'm over here. On with life. And all of a sudden, one day, I'm where you see me. I'm at my computer, and I get another message. Now, I don't get all these messages like other people do. I just got those unbelievable messages around the accident, and I'm going about my business. And the thought that came into my head, it said podcast. That's all I heard. And I said to I'm a baby boomer. I said to somebody, what's a podcast? I just heard the word podcast. So they said, oh, I can help you do that. And I said, are they telling me I'm supposed to start interviewing people? And I believe in it now because I've gotten the messages, and I'm not looking at it like I'm special in any way. I'm looking at this as part of my divine plan. I'm getting another signal.
It's your work and your service and your mission to accomplish.
Right. So I said, who am I going to interview? And then I thought about it. When I tell about my story, when they pulled me out of the car and I got that message, be loving and kind to everyone. After that, the other thing I thought on the earthbound plane here was my husband was buried on my son's 21st birthday.
Oh, my heavens.
The thought I had that day, in addition to when that message came through, is I will do anything I need to do to role model for Matt that you can get hit by a grenade in life and still keep going. So right at that moment, in addition to the spiritual message, I scripted myself. I will heal from this somehow. So I worked with a life transition coach. Now I'm opening up to energy work in the spiritual world. So I was working with an energy healer. I was, of course, seeing mediums. And I thought, I'm going to interview grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums. And by the way, I'm so excited because I'm having you on, and you are definitely going to be a healing resource for people and an inspiration for people, healers, mediums, and people who have been through really tough times in their lives and healed and transformed their lives, because it's so important. So many of us are walking around wounded.
No, it's so true. And just as a reminder, my remarkable guest that I'm so honored and thrilled to have speaking with today is Irene Weinberg. Last name is Weinberg, ireneweinberg.com. And you can find her book, There Are Bagels in Heaven, as well as subscribe to both her podcast, her award-winning podcast, Grief and Rebirth, as well as her YouTube channel.
Thank you. Thank you, Hilary.
And so you got to starting the podcast.
So now I start the podcast, and I think I'm done. And I'm doing the podcast, and people are responding to it. And one of my favorite stories about the podcast, because I interview so many amazing healers and all, is one woman I interviewed about 2.5, 3 years ago was a woman who had like 3 or 4 stillborn children.
Oh,
and
wow.
she decided that she became a grief coach, and she created a certification for people who want to specialize in infant death. And a woman was listening to my podcast. She never missed an episode. She loved it. She was nearing retirement, thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And she was listening to the podcast, and she said to her husband, I really want to listen to this. And they were listening to it as they're traveling. And my interview with this amazing woman her name is Cherokee Ilse, who had started the certification, was on. And the woman said, oh my God, to her husband, we had a stillborn child, and I never properly grieved that child. I'm going to become a grief coach and take a certification with Cherokee. And that lovely, wonderful lady, she sent me an email, and she said, your podcast changed my life. I just started a department in a hospital specializing in counseling people who have lost infants and young children. Oh my goodness.
Such important and vital work.
Oh my goodness. So this is the kind of thing that is coming out of the podcast. It's helping so many people, and it's also enlightening them and educating people. Like, yes, you have a soul. This is what it's about. This is what's going on. Because I was so skeptical and naive about this. I really am so thrilled to be able to bring this information and to be a healing source for people.
Right.
So I'm doing that, and I thought I was done. And I'm doing the podcast.
But wait, there's more, Irene.
I was doing the podcast, and all this wonderful work is going on. And then I had a session with someone, and she said, I'm getting a message for you. You're supposed to write another book. I said, another book? And she said, yes. She said, they're saying you're such a good role model for getting older and staying vibrant and making a difference. How about a book that highlights people who have been through, we talk about the first chapter of life is our formative years. We go to school, we have our parents, we have our family situations, all of that. The second chapter, you're kind of, I think, in your second chapter, Hilary, you have your career, you have what you're doing, you have your family and all that. Now we get to me, third chapter. The kids are grown, you got the grandchildren, you have the stuff going on. Are you staying in the swamp of chapters 1 and 2 with all the lousy things that happen to you? Right? Or are you taking the good stuff from it and are you creating a legacy for the last part of your life?
Right. Giving back. Right.
Giving back. And a lot of people think my job as I get older is to get sick and die.
It's so true. So true.
And they're walking around depressed. They're not conscious that there's more after death. All they're going to do is leave their bodies. But while you're in this lifetime, what are you going to do with what you've learned in 1 and 2 to leave a legacy in 3? And you'll be back and all that. But for this one, so what I did was I scanned all these people I've interviewed and I said, who are the 3rd chapter people I've interviewed who have been through tremendous challenges and have incredible uplifting stories of how they healed and transformed their lives. And so there are 24 people in the book. Not all of them are people I interviewed. There are a few others who had amazing stories who I knew. And it's called, you're going to love this. It's called Good to the Last Drop.
Oh, so that is also on your website. Right. So both of your books, Good to the Last Drop. And, that's for the chapter 3. About the chapter 3, it's for all of us to read, but it's about the chapter 3 people.
Right. And people tell me all the time, oh my God, this person's story really inspired me. Oh my goodness, I have to think about this. I'm nearing retirement. And I also have a lot of people buying it for their parents or buying it for their grandparents. I really want to get, because my grandfather or my mom or someone needs a little change in a point of view. And I want to gift this. So that's the other thing that's been going on. And the podcast, now it's started me on a YouTube channel. So I am not bored. And I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful.
Your energy is magical, truly. It comes through. I've not met you in person, but I've spoken with you several times, and it's just, you leap through the screen, and you radiate joy and effervescence. And that's why I say, I want to be you when I grow up. Because I'm 60, and so I'm just beginning to enter that 3rd phase, but I still have 1 foot sort of in each chapter. The 2nd chapter is ending and the 3rd chapter is beginning. So it's really, you're like, I call you the Dr. Ruth.
I love Westheimer that you do that. I love that.
Because, you're completely engaging and fascinating, and the information that you weave and share. So you continue with the podcast, and your books are available on your website.
The podcast, and I thank you everyone for subscribing. They can subscribe to the podcast on through my website. Through anywhere they get, I'm everywhere they get their podcasts, through YouTube. I'd love them to come onto the YouTube channel. I'm going to be starting a membership there and having some wonderful events for people. And I really want to tell people the main message that I've learned in all of this, because besides gratitude and the value of healing and how important that is in your life, not to carry that backpack filled with the issues and problems that you've had all your life, and you affect everyone. Why my energy comes through the way it does, and I'm well into my 70s, and why my energy comes through is because I've let go of my backpack. I've healed so many. I'm not perfect. I'm not telling you anything, but I have all kept working on. I had a very dysfunctional childhood. I was abandoned by my family for 23 years.
Wow.
I've been through all kinds of things in my life, but I've healed so much of it, changed my perspective on so much of it. And in some ways, I'm grateful, because I wouldn't have understood when I interview people about what they've been through and what they've processed and how they're helping people heal if I hadn't had what happened to me hadn't happened.
Right.
But the other thing that I really want to impress people with from my story, when they pulled me out of that car and that voice boomed into my head, oh my goodness, and told me, be loving and kind to everyone. That includes you and me. And I realized everyone includes me. I'm as
Mhm.
precious as anyone else on this planet. So I have an obligation to myself, because how am I going to help other people if I don't take care of myself? And why
That
should
is,
I be behind the line
mhm.
to everyone else? So what is
No,
it?
that's so important, especially for empaths who absorb the energy around us, good, bad, or indifferent. And we don't know a lot of times whether it's our beings that are toxic or if that's somebody else's projection that we're then trying to figure out what to do with. That's a very
Exactly.
good point.
Exactly. And I really encourage people, do your healing work. That's being loving and kind to yourself. Even though it
Mhm.
takes a lot of courage and all, you'll feel so much better. That's a loving, kind thing to do for yourself. Take care of your,
You're
if you
being,
don't think there's gray hair under this hair, I mean, take care of yourself. I work out, I take care of myself. I do all that. And I'm not telling you that I'm perfect. I'm constantly working on it, but I was never, the way it changed me is I was really never as kind to me as I was to other people.
right.
I was always sacrificing everything and doing everything for everyone else and not being so good to me.
Mhm.
After this happened to me, I realized that I had an I had an obligation to me too. And the kicker, the biggest reward that I got from that is 4 years after the accident, I'm in healing. I'm doing all this stuff. I've had my surgeries. I'm trying to grapple with things, but I'm allowing myself to have joy, even though I'm still missing Saul. I'm being
Mhm.
loving and kind to myself and working on stuff. My son said to me, Mom, I have to tell you something. He said, there's been nothing worse than seeing you in complete despair,
Oh.
and nothing better than seeing you be able to have joy again. And
Oh,
that's my message to people, because you're not only healing your stuff and being kind to yourself for you, you're being kind to yourself because it's role modeling to the people in your life
it's so
that
true.
they can take care of themselves and they can have more positive attitudes also, and not look at life as victims to what's happened, but look at life as, that really was lousy. This thing happened, but what have I taken from it? How do I learn from it and move on? And that attitude is so beneficial to the people in your life.
Yeah, it's like a
So
ripple
beneficial.
effect. It truly is a ripple effect when you're able to pull yourself through, by whatever means. But self-care, I 100% agree. There, you can't put a price tag on self-care because it helps you to put down the backpack, as you call it, of trauma or sadness and the burden, and it allows you to heal.
Yeah, and it's, and the price, and the reward is you get to smile and lift that thing off you. And I also find that I never enjoyed my present moments because I was in so much trauma that I was always either worrying about what was coming down the pike from the past
Hmm.
or what was coming down the pike in the future. And I was never, ever just enjoying where I am now. Now that I've let go of that backpack, I can fully embrace my moments. And that's what I think people sense about me.
Yeah,
I'm not burdened by all those other what ifs and oh my God, and I have to be careful of what. And the other message I have for people is, if you're being loving and kind to yourself and you have toxic people in your life, please, you don't have to be kumbaya with these people. You can bless them. They've got their own stories. They have their own life path. The things that are happening to them, they have their own lessons to learn. But you don't have to be in that soup. You can detach from it a little bit and protect yourself, which
that's
I have done.
very well said. Yeah, you don't have to be beholden, and self-protection is self-care. Shielding, following your own needs, wants, desires is not selfish, as many of us, especially women, have been taught. It is a balance that needs to be calibrated and recalibrated often.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, that's another one that changes your life. I've had a few people in my life who did not have my best interests at heart, or were not positive people or whatever. And you know what? I don't hate them. They're on their path. I just don't have to be close to them.
Right.
I separate out from them.
Right.
And they're not conscious. They don't understand. And you could do it in my way. I've done it as gently as I could, but I go, it is not, I don't feel good when I'm around these people.
Right. And that is really the barometer. I have this super technical term for a scale that I use with clients, yuck to yum. And
that's good.
If they're not on the yum, delicious, I want more of this, please, then they're on the yuck end or somewhere in between. And you always want to aim toward yummy. So my remarkable guest is Irene Weinberg. You may find her at ireneweinberg.com. Her podcast is award-winning, the top 2% of 3 million podcasts globally. It is Grief and Rebirth podcast, available wherever you subscribe to your podcast. She's also has a YouTube channel. So it's hard for me to believe we're at the end of our conversation. The question I always like to end with is, if you could change the world for better in some way. I think sharing everything you've just shared is your explanation and beautiful delivery of how you would change the world. But if there is some particular words of wisdom or insight that you have, how would you change the world?
Well, I once said to a therapist, why doesn't everyone else go to therapy like I'm going to therapy? And she said to me, because it takes tremendous courage to face yourself and to also face certain truths in your life that you don't really know how to grapple with or want to grapple with. And I have to say to people, pull up your courage. You're going to cry. You're going to be upset. You're going to get things out, but you're also going to find peace, and you're going to release yourself from pain. Because when you've had trauma and grief in your life, you're in pain. Mm-hmm. And if you don't heal that or transpose it to a better place or become conscious about it, you're going to keep that pain with you all the time. Mm-hmm. So my last word is that I would love for the world to heal however you can, get the courage, because I think most of the suffering in this world and what's going on is from unhealed trauma and pain. And we're not just talking about in families, in situations now. If you go back to the beginning of time, the same hatreds and conflicts and trauma and dysfunction keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. And in every family and every situation, someone needs to break the pattern and to change the legacy.
That's so well said and so true. Thank you. Thank you, my esteemed friend. My honorable, beautiful guest is Irene Weinberg. You may find her at Irene Weinberg, WEINBERG, ireneweinberg.com. Her award-winning podcast is Grief and Rebirth podcast. And so wonderful to speak with you, my dear friend, today. To learn more about my work or to book a session with me, please visit hilaryharley.com. If you would like to read my monthly forecast or check dates of planetary events and cycles, you may find the full transcript for all astrology episodes on my website. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening today. Please join me again in 2 weeks when I will bring you my astrology forecast for the month ahead. I wish you many blessings as you journey forward.